All right, everyone. Now we've got to talk about Joe, Creepy Joe, yet again. Apparently, link in the description archive, of course, for the better part of a year before the incident with the debate, some Democrats were already holding sort of informal meetings with regards to saying, hey, maybe Biden really shouldn't run after all. I mean, they weren't wrong. It's just that the person that replaced him fared even more poorly. Honestly, I still hold to what I said initially. Swapping Biden out for Harris was a bad idea. Joe Biden would have lost, but he wouldn't have lost so catastrophically. I have a feeling that there were just enough Dem partisan loyalists to prop him up in at least a couple of competitive states. I think that Kamala Harris completely screwed it up. And the proof is in the pudding. Look who's in the White House. Is it A, Kamala, or B, Trump? Well, it's Trump. I think that his win was effectively inevitable, unless that one shot had actually landed in Butler, in which case he couldn't win because he would have been quite dead. And by an act of God, so to speak, moment, of course, that did not happen, for which I myself am thankful. Kamala couldn't win. It was basically impossible. And Biden wouldn't have won either, but he wouldn't have done so poorly. But the Democrats were already talking about it a year before that even happened. So back when supposedly keep in mind the foil that they were using at the time. Legacy media, corporate allies, political allies, wonks and so forth. They all lined up to defend Joe Biden, say, no, he's perfectly fine. Okay, sometimes he falls down, don't we all? Yes, everyone trips over a sandbag several times and up the stairs because of a breeze. That was literally the excuse. Everyone breaks their foot when chasing the dog in the shower on a slippery floor. That makes a lot of sense. They basically safeguarded him as long as they possibly could. But behind closed doors, they were already saying the things that many of us were saying. Myself, some of you, they were already saying them. Hey, Joe's not actually that well. It's sort of like what Joe Biden did actually before the Afghan withdrawal to similar disastrous effect, only politically instead of, you know, several U.S. Marines getting splattered. You remember and this has been memory hold by the legacy media for obvious reasons. You remember that call that he made to the president of Afghanistan saying, yeah, come on, man. I know that Corn Pop is on your doorstep with an army of jihadis, but you need to tell your people, don't worry, everything's perfectly fine. And then extends the date, doesn't remove the equipment, doesn't remove the troops, doesn't remove the translators, knowing that things are going to fall apart because he screwed up the deal, which was the whole point, I think, to give it back to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, which is unfortunate for the people of Afghanistan, especially those that were aligned with the U.S. in any way over the prior decade. Well, 2 decades now. Well, more than 2 decades. Yeah, it was a long war. Um, the thing is that it's roughly parallel, actually, to what I'm seeing here. The Democrats on the surface would tell the public Joe is fine, but behind closed doors, they knew Joe is not fine. He might not make it. But they told everyone, don't worry, he'll be fine. It's likely that before the end of Trump's second term, Joe Biden will have died at his rate of decline. It is more than likely. He's not doing so well. Yes, he's capable of perambulating from place to place. His mind is going. We've seen that. Although without the stress of office, I suppose it'll slow down the rate of decline some. And he has physical problems as well from time to time. When somebody gets up to that age and they have that kind of problem, it can be a problem, and it is. I would give better than 50-50 odds of that. Or I'll eat my hat. At least it's made of leather, so I can boil it until it's soft and, it'll be somewhat edible. I used to do that on the Oregon Trail on a regular basis when they had to. And the Democrats were literally expecting him to be forced out or to drop out or that they would have to take action because they would get to the point in time where they'd be like, well, Joe, this just ain't cutting it. This is not going to work. The funny part again, though, is that they should have stood behind their man. The front rank that was assembled before Biden, shielding him from incoming fire, should have been joined by the people that were mumbling in the background about how he wasn't fit to be leader. They should have circled wagons even more because he would have done better than Kamala Harris, in my personal opinion. And I think that I share that opinion with quite a few people, actually, saying, well, Joe didn't do a good job as president. He's clearly getting off his rocker. But Kamala Harris is off her rocker at a much earlier age, and she's even less qualified in virtually every capacity, other than her capacity of walking from place to place without tripping over a banana peel or something like that. I still think that Biden would have been a better choice, honestly. And that's going some. That's about as high a praise of Biden as I can possibly give because there's really nothing else to praise. Would have been better than Kamala as a candidate. Ta-da! There's your qualification right there. Again, he wouldn't have won, but wouldn't have done quite so poorly. It's funny to think that all that time, people behind the scenes were in the know. And those of us out here on the other side of the political spectrum were also in the know. The people in the middle were the ones that were befuddled, presenting a brave face, circling wagons around Creepy Joe, saying, no, 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 there's nothing wrong with him. Oh, he's perfectly mentally acute. Man, I was in a meeting with him yesterday and he was just rattling off facts. He knew where he was. That's important. And who he was and preferably what date it was. Sometimes I forget that too, so I'll let that one slide. Behind closed doors, though, they were saying, well, I was at a meeting with Joe. At first, he couldn't remember who I was. Then he couldn't remember who Corn Pop was. And then he thought that the Eiffel Tower was in Iraq for some reason. That's basically what was happening behind the scenes. That's about all. Peace out.